FC2 Apple by John Sculley. You guys should read it. It's a brilliant depiction of what happened. So this is actually taken from there. So what happened? John Sculley comes on board. He joins in 1983. But you know what? Steve Jobs had this. He had his own leadership style problem. First of all, he was a micromanager. He didn't give freedom. So he was actually the chairman of the company, not executive chairman. John Sculley was the CEO, Chief Executive Officer. So what happened immediately after joining? There was severe difference of opinion. Steve Jobs was also the general manager of the Macintosh division. So the whole objective, the difference of opinion was, how should Macintosh be taken worldwide? Steve Jobs said we should spend more. John Sculley said we should spend more in marketing, etc., etc. Finally, John Sculley went and told the board, this is the time for you. You guys decide whether you want Steve Jobs or you want John Sculley. And what happened? Right? Finally, Steve Jobs was divested of his role as a general manager. Right? So, and then, he was taken aback. He thought he's the guy who set up the company. And then he resigned as a chairman. So, this is one of those examples wherein a leader is really not aware of what his board is doing. And, if you read Steve Jobs or hear Steve Jobs' 2005 Stanford commencement speech, he says this was probably one of his greatest learnings that he has had in life. Right? So, this is an example where an accomplished leader like Steve Jobs was really not able to manage the board, manage environment. He was a micromanager. He had alienated many people, because of which, of course, he got ejected. Of course, you can say after that he made Pixar the way it is today, and then he came back. So, that's a great example of a productive narcissist going wrong. Let's really go further down history. All of you have heard of Henry Ford. Who has not heard of Henry Ford? All of you have heard of Henry Ford, right? Why is Henry Ford famous for? Why is Henry Ford famous for? Model T, right? He's the guy who started assembly line. He's the guy who really put automobile on the road. So the first car came out in 1908, and it was actually Ford Model T. You see that black picture on your slide. When he launched this product, it was around $800, and by late 1920s, it was $400. So, slowly by late 1920s, 1920, 1921, Ford was ruling the entire automotive market because there was no competition. But slowly what started happening, General Motors started entering the market. And what did General Motors do? General Motors did two things. First of all, they started offering consumers variants. What was Ford offering? Ford was just offering a black-colored motor car. So here you had General Motors, which was offering this similar type of cars with different colors. That was one. The second thing is, what General Motors started offering was easy financing option. So when Edsel Ford was Henry Ford's son, went and told his dad, "Dad, why don't you look at it?" He was not willing to listen to his son. And he kept on producing the same black-colored Ford. Finally, you know what? Ford started losing market share. And then, of course, finally in 1927, they came up with Ford Model A. But you know what? By then, the entire company had got screwed up. And Ford was in a pretty bad shape in 20s and 30s. And you know what? Some of you may be knowing that Franklin Roosevelt, who was the President of the United States of America, wanted Ford Motor Company to make some aircrafts, right? And these aircrafts were to be used in World War II. But you know what? Roosevelt was not very sure if Ford would be successful given the condition of the organization. So he even thought of, he was thinking that the government should take over this organization. It didn't end there. The problem with Henry Ford was he was surrounded by people who just told him what he wanted to hear, right? He had one of his senior leaders, and he was actually related to him, by the name Ernst Kessler. this guy actually wrote a long letter, and you'll get that in Google, is that when he tells Henry Ford what he is doing is wrong. The company needs to position itself differently. He needs to get away from the coterie that he had created. What did Henry Ford do? Henry Ford fired him. Finally, what happened? The company was in a pretty bad shape, and strangely, in the early 1940s, his son Edsel Ford died of cancer. And then Edsel Ford's son, Henry Ford too, came on board because Edsel Ford's wife made it sure that Henry Ford is thrown out of the board. Right? So this is another story wherein an accomplished leader, not willing to change, had to lose the credibility that he has earned. And you know what? Bill Gates actually keeps Henry Ford's picture on his table. Why do you think he keeps his picture on his table?
So that he should not make the same mistake.
Exactly. He keeps his picture on the table just to remind him that he should not do what Henry Ford did. All of us know Henry Ford to be a pioneer. So another example of a productive narcissist going wrong because of the wrong choices, because of having wrong people around him. Let's look at another example. This is, of course, Michael Dell. What was Michael Dell? All of you know of Dell Computers, right? Very, very successful in 1990s, even early 2000, wherein, you could order any computer over online and it would get delivered, right? And what did Michael Dell talk about Apple, right? And you can read it yourself. I will shut down and give money back to shareholders. That's what his comment about Apple in late 1990s. And finally, what's happened to Dell today? Michael Dell has privatized it. Of course, I was reading his interview the other day. I was coming from Bangalore on the aircraft, and he was talking all good things. But the company is really struggling. Of course, it's got a revenue of $27 billion. So, another example of a very, very successful leader who was not really vigilant, because of which, he lost what he had achieved. So let's really take this blindness concept forward. So when you really talk about blindness, there are degrees to it, right? And what are the degrees of blindness that we need to remember? The first is where the leader is really not aware about the blindness. And I'll talk about through an example. The second is, faulty assessment. The second example is faulty assessment. And the third example is, you know about the problem, but you don't do it, right? So let's really get into the next slide. This is about a famous acquisition which happened in the United States of America in 2012. This was a merger between Progress Utility Company and Duke Utility Company. So both these companies are based in North Carolina. They were very, very successful. This was a celebrated merger of 26 billion US dollars. So what happened? So the agreement was that before the merger, that Bill Johnson, who was the CEO, would continue to be the CEO in the next company, and Jim Rogers would be the chairman. So the acquisition happened, and in the first board meeting, Bill Johnson was made the CEO. What happened is that Bill Johnson left the board meeting. He went to celebrate that he had become the CEO of this merged company. Within 2 hours, the board had another meeting. And he was thrown out. How did that happen? Because Duke Energy had bigger voting power. And finally, Jim Rogers was made a CEO. Of course, they did a case, etc. Nothing really happened. Another great example of blind spot, wherein a leader is really not aware of the potential blind spots that could be around. So in this case, today it's a very successful company. You can again Google and see. But another example wherein a guy became a CEO. He was a CEO only for 2 hours before he was thrown out by the board. Right? Now let's really talk about the next example wherein, this is an example of quality assessment. All of you are aware of the Columbia disaster, right?
Right.
2003. Who was there in this flight? Kalpana Chawla. There were 7 astronauts. So what happened in this flight? Let's understand. So you guys would have seen this space shuttle, right? And you've seen around this space shuttle, there was always this solid fuel tank. So what happened? The flight took off, and there was the fuel tank, because all these have liquid nitrogen, they have insulation on top of them. One of the insulation part broke up, and you know what? This hit the wing at 850 kilometers per hour, and it actually created a hole in the wing of the shuttle. So the flight took off, right? Next 16 days, all these 7 astronauts were in the space doing all what they were supposed to do. Now, Linda Ham was the program manager. Now let me tell you what typically happens in a launch like this. Immediately after the launch, they had a conversation, and then they didn't realize that something like this had happened. Next day, typically after launch, they go through the entire picture. Every bit of the spacecraft is videotaped. Next day, when they were going through it, they realized, oh my goodness, this has happened. So there were 2-3 responses. The first response was, yeah, some of the engineers said that something similar has happened earlier, right? So nothing would happen. Well, that was one response. The other response was that, okay, even if this has happened, even if we got to know, can we really do something about it? Right, so that was the second response of the people working around Linda Ham. And the third response, there was this guy, he wanted to tell Linda Ham that, this is something